Let me tell you, people, commuting while there is slush, snow, and ice on the sidewalk is a trip. And luckily, I did not trip. Mm-mm-mm. I worked from home from last Friday, a week ago, to yesterday, which was Wednesday as of this video. And it had snowed in my neck of the woods. It snowed it was like really late Sunday, early Monday, and everything shut down. My office was closed, city services were closed, and a lot of things were closed. Kids didn't have to go to school. Everything was at a standstill. And it felt good to have those few days of stillness and slowness. It was, I needed that so much. I get up at 6 and I have to do all these things in the morning and I'm still half asleep. And I carve out time to do my 3 morning pages daily. That's from Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. I will post a link to that in my description. And I'll meditate. Sometimes I fall asleep while I meditate. I'll set an alarm to wake me back up, but I turn the alarm off, go back to sleep. But to not have to rush out the door. I still got at that early, but I could take my time. I could slow down my writing. I could do longer meditations, and I could sleep a little longer because all I had to do was walk into another room and log in to work. And I needed that so badly. I needed a break from commuting. I needed a break from egos. I needed a break from, I just needed a break. And it felt good to wear my fluffy robe and have my hair in a messy bun and be in my own space. And granted, I have loud neighbors, and loud neighbors are going to do what they're going to do. And one kid was screaming, but luckily I have noise canceling headphones, which help to tune them out most of the time. But everything started to open up again, slowly but surely. City services were back on track. The office reopened. The kids are still at home. I believe they're doing online school for the time being, but everything else was back on track. But not every sidewalk is clear of slush, snow, and ice. And what normally is a 10-minute walk for me from when I take a certain bus was a trek. I had to slow my pace because I did not want to fall on the ice. Not only was I worried about breaking my body, I did not want to risk breaking these new glasses, which I mentioned in a previous video. And another thing is getting used to wearing bifocals with a mask. And I had to look down when I walked to look out for ice and whatnot. Oh my God. And that was like, so every time I looked down, like the vision under this part of my lenses would be blurry. I had to get used to moving my whole head when I looked down. And I was so afraid of slipping and falling. And I'm doing my walk, I'm carrying my purse and my laptop bag, and I got some shopping bags for to run errands later in the day during my lunch break. And I'm sitting there trying to walk and hold these things. And I'm, goodness gracious, I don't do this, God. Oh. So I changed my thinking. I said, I walk confidently and with purpose. I walk confidently and with purpose. I walk confidently and with purpose. I still groaned. Oh God, it's not, oh God, oh, goodness gracious. I still groaned and moaned, but doing that affirmation did help me, and I made it to the office safely. But then I'd leave back out during my lunch break to go to the drugstore and get some things. And it was the same thing, which usually a quick walk was a trek. Looking out for ice, looking out for slush, looking out for snow. And I made it there safely, got what I needed, and then did the same thing back to the office. Grumbling, oh, because now I have a bag of stuff with my purse, and I'm trying not to lose my cool in the cool weather. Clearly, my Buffalo winter skills are gone. I've not lived in Buffalo in close to 20 years, so. And this area, the DC area, does not get snow to the point like Buffalo does. The one big snow event was what was called Snowmageddon back in 2010. And on that day, I volunteered at a gala at a DC theater. I believe she was the artistic director. She was retiring, and the gala was in her honor. But unfortunately, because of the weather, a lot of things didn't go as planned. They used to have caterers, but the caterers couldn't show up. And what was supposed to be pizza for volunteers ended up being used to feed the guests. I do remember pizza. Yeah, I do remember pizza for they ended up, and I also think there were like a few places they managed to help get for volunteers. It went well. It went as well as it could for an event that was affected by the weather. It went as well as it could. But there was this incident that happened. There was this irritating older white woman. And I was, I believe I was 29 or turning 29 at the time. And they were making jokes. And she comes up to me, puts her hands over my ears and says, "Shh, not in front of the children." I said I get mistaken for younger. And that's the kind of BS I cannot stand. That's when people say, take being mistaken for younger as a compliment. That kind of stuff is why I don't see it as a compliment. People think I'm some incompetent, ignorant kid because of a mess like that. And I froze in that moment. Nowadays, I'm more outspoken. I don't put other people's feelings before my own now. I speak up more. They don't like to hear what I have to say, but they're going to hear it. But yeah. But I made it safely to the theater and back. My commute was underground on the train, and the only above ground part was me having to walk from the theater to the train station, which it was a little of a trek, but it wasn't that bad. And then I had to walk from the train station to my where I was living at the time. But then once I was in for however many days that everything was closed because of that. I had enough food, I had heat, I had power, everything was fine. And same with right now. I have heat, I have food, I have power, everything is fine. But speaking of Buffalo, I remember when I lived in Buffalo, I was probably in my early 20s and I was driving, which is funny because I don't drive much living in DC. I don't do much driving. And, but back then I was driving, and if anyone from Buffalo is watching this, I believe I was on DeWitt Street. And I was trying to make a right turn from DeWitt onto Lafayette. Yeah, I believe those are the streets. I know it was definitely Lafayette I was turning onto. And I tried to turn right. And the car, instead of turning right, it skid and did a 180, ended up facing left. I just laughed at the time. I thought it was funny, and I laughed it off. But if that would happen to me today, I'd probably freak, because I'm not used to, I don't drive much, and my winter skills have diminished greatly since moving to the DC area. Because snow is not a regular thing in this area as it is for Buffalo, even though there is much more to Buffalo than snow. And I do want to talk about growing up in Buffalo in a future video. But yeah, it's but back from the distant past to the present. So a lot of those streets, a lot of those sidewalks were not treated properly. People, not everyone shoveled, not everyone salted, and they were a mess to get through. And I wanted to avoid doing that on my commute home tonight, but I missed the bus. I saw it right across the street, and they had green light. They were not going away from me. I was not going to run for it. So I just stood there with my bags, and I said, "Dang," and stomped my foot. I ended up having to walk because I did not want to wait. I needed to get away. And I did the walk, and it was like, oh, I didn't mention in the morning, I had to keep stepping aside. The side was just too narrow for people to share. So I would step aside. I'd step in space because I didn't want to talk to anybody. And they'd say, "Thank you." And I'd say, "Mm-hmm." Lord have mercy. And it was the opposite, doing the same thing the opposite direction in the evening. Stepping aside for people. If they say, "Thank you, I appreciate it," I'd say, "Mm-hmm," while looking up at the sky. And others just kept walking, whatever. Fine by me. And I made it to the stop safely. And yeah, in good weather, it's an easy 10-minute walk, but in bad weather, it takes much longer. And but this time I said, yeah, I can't do that anymore. And the bus that came is the one where I usually take a 10-minute walk to where I live from that stop. But that time I said, I'm not doing that. So I stayed on it longer and got off at a stop that connected me to a bus, which dropped me off the street from where I live. Whew, no more trekking in the snow for me, at least not tonight. So yeah, I am home now, and I'm going to repeat the same thing tomorrow unless I can manage to catch more buses tomorrow. And I heard it's supposed to snow again this weekend. And I am bringing my laptop home with me every day during winter because I don't want to risk what happened before. It was I think it was last year, because I only work from home once a week on average. And because I use public transportation, I don't want to lug the laptop back and forth constantly. But I did that once. I left the laptop at the office. I get to the office just to find out the office was closed. So I ended up taking the laptop and going all the way back home. Unbelievable. But I don't want that to happen again this year. So I'm definitely taking it home. It's a burden, but it's a burden I'm willing to take. A burden I'm willing to deal with. Yeah, winter is not my favorite season. It never was. I used to like summer when I was a kid, but summer has gotten way too hot and way too unbearable. So I now prefer fall because fall has some of the warmth of summer, but it's much cooler. Spring to a degree too, but I like the fall vibe better. Yeah. But that's it for this topic. I have one more thing I want to discuss before I call it a night.